the large amount of AI processing is coming from very complex computer chips that are in fact produced in America, and America is slow rolling the distribution of those chips to China because they're trying to keep an actual leg up on China. That would be days of work for a graphics artist to be able to produce an image like that, and that would be one rendering of that image. AI can produce an endless amount of renderings of that image within minutes.
My dad helped start ATMs. So it's like that was your first big step into automation and something taking somebody's job technically. So, I mean, it's just going to keep advancing. It's like Siri on your phone is an AI.
Let's talk about AI and sex. What's going to happen in 20 or 30 years when those robots do come and inevitably take out those blue-collar jobs? But we're talking about in the next 5 years, your white-collar jobs are by and large gone if you are just being a brain that is paid for.
You know, you made a good point, though, when you said about like compassion and things like that, because you know, if that's the case and all these kids have these AI, these little robots and things like that, that could definitely go both ways. Like you think about the kids who are bullied or abused, things like that. But then you also think about these kids, like you said, we're protecting you from yourself.
While Apple might have done a good thing building their own ecosystem, AI is going to change all that. While Google might have been able to have a dominance over the last 10 years, having 95% of search, AI is going to change all that. AI is not going anywhere. The only way that you could stop AI is if we could go back in time 20 years ago and literally put a stop to AI. But when the internet was created, it laid the course for the eventuality of what is now here today. No government can stop it. No individual can stop it. AI is here. It is a new civilization. It is going to grow. So we're going to talk about all of this. And we're back, and I'm going to just jump right into it. I'm not going to do a whole lot of introductions as far as the overall general podcasting. I've got two of my favorite people with me as co-hosts, and we are doing a podcast on AI. And I will be very real with you that this is truly an existential crisis that it needs to be talked about because of how quickly things are going to move. It is going to fundamentally change humanity. And I want to be clear about this. You have three options. One option is to bury your head in the sand and ignore it. The next option is to fear it and be pissed at how it's going to affect humanity and our jobs. And the third option is to embrace it for what it is because it's not going anywhere. And if you are listening to this podcast, I am removing option number one. Like, you're not going to bury your head in the sand about this. Yeah, we have so much to go over because I want to cover like so many things in this podcast in general, from how this is going to affect our lives, both business and personal. The two of the people that I brought Trish with me, and I brought Matt with me, and the reason that I have them here as co-hosts is because as a business, I'm seeing that AI is such a big piece of the future, that both of them have been playing with these AI capabilities because it's going to have a very dramatic effect on business and on personal. And I think that we should be embracing a lot of the things when it comes to the business, but we need to be most importantly aware of how it's going to affect all of us personally. And then the reality is through technology, where we've had to prepare ourselves and protect ourselves and be aware of what was coming over the last 20 years. What came over the last 20 years is nothing compared to what's going to come over the next 2 years. And you need to be aware of it so that you can safeguard and protect yourself from some of the dangers and the pitfalls. So Matt, Trish, thank you very much for joining me in this podcast.
Should be a fun one.
Absolutely.
I mean, and don't get me wrong. Like I said, it's because, again, I'm choosing option three, and I have to laugh about this because Matt and I've had conversations before where I'm like, he'll have an opinion on something, and it will be an opinion on a solution on what I see as a symptom of a problem. And I very quickly am like, what you're saying is irrelevant because that's the symptom. we need to talk about the root cause. And then through watching one of the podcasts, this guy tells me that one of the most valuable things that he got from Harvard was learning first order thinking. And then when he started describing it, I'm like, okay, I didn't need to go to Harvard. I might be just a dumb blue collar guy, but I'm at least smart enough to literally understand first order thinking. Because the point is, like, when I say first order thinking, where your second option is to fear or be mad at, it's irrelevant. It's here to stay. It is not going anywhere. So first order thought is you had better become aware, you had better educate yourself, because AI is not going anywhere. The only way that you could stop AI is if we could go back in time 20 years ago and literally put a stop to AI. But when the internet was created, it laid the course for the eventuality of what is now here today. No government can stop it. No individual can stop it. The AI is here. It is a new civilization. It is going to grow. And so we're going to talk about all of this, because first order thought is you're dumb if you bury your head in the sand about this. There's no point being fearful and letting that fear paralyze you. You would better educate yourself and embrace it for all of the good. And about like with religion, have hope and faith that if you do the right things, that all of the positive benefits are actually going to come out of it, and that we hope humanity is going to steer away from the negatives, because we'll get deeper into it when it comes to movies. But like, I shit you not, we're going to have Transformers. We're going to have Autobots and Decepticons. Decepticons looking at us like ants and peons that serve no purpose, and Autobots going, we are superior to them, but they're a good race and we should protect them. And I mean, that is the real eventuality of where we're actually going. So I mean, let's first jump off into this when it comes to what is AI. So I'm curious as to, from the research that you guys have done, what your thoughts are. How do you perceive what AI is?
Well, you got to think AI, it just didn't really just come about. AI has been around for a really long time. Because if you think about it, when you were dialing those phone numbers a long time ago, and you had to push 1 for this and push 2, how can I help you? And then they never understood you, so you're screaming representative as fast as you can.
Right.
So like, AI has always been around. But now what's happening is they're taking all of this information and they're able to cruise the internet. They're able to go through all of this stuff and then give you this answer in a matter of minutes, sometimes seconds.
Seconds, yeah.
And I was reading today about how, you know, with just artificial intelligence itself, it's able to adapt, it's able to evolve. And think about how far it's came in the last, we'll say, year.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to stop, like you said. And they did a study where they took over 200 different patients and they had them upload all these questions. They wouldn't tell them if they were doctors. They wouldn't tell them if it was AI. And these people were uploading pictures. They were getting cancer diagnosis, all kinds of different things. And they had no idea that this was actually coming from ChatGPT as opposed to their doctors. Doctors are getting burnt out. They're tired of the inboxes, because most of the time when you go to the doctor, the first time you go, it's over the phone or it's in a video chat.
Absolutely.
So their inboxes are overloaded. So now they're wanting to basically find these AIs as virtual assistants. So you just type in your problems and they're like, oh, okay, well, it looks like you got the herpes or whatever it is. Here you go. And then they move on with their life.
Well, and I mean, because to your point, the funny thing is, towards that end of it, because we're going to get into that a little bit later on in this, you should be careful what you ask for. Because AI is going to make doctors obsolete. Like, what the hell do we need somebody that went to Harvard to learn how to study case studies and go to a computer screen to read other people's studies just to know how to diagnose you, when AI is 1,000 times smarter than you? You're a doctor. Your general practice doctor becomes absolutely irrelevant at the point that we are all walking around with our own Jarvises. So, Matt, what is your
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of, especially the older generation, doesn't realize what all was actually AI. And it's like, being a child of 2 programmers, my dad helped start ATMs. So it's like, that was your first big step into automation and taking somebody's job, technically. So, I mean, it's just going to keep advancing. It's like Siri on your phone is an AI.
And that's what I want people to try and understand, that when I say you would have had to stop this 20 years ago, that people don't realize AI has been an active part of our life, but it has been so subtle that they haven't been paying attention to the evolution of where we are today.
Even when you're just texting and it starts suggesting words, like that's
AI. And no,
I think it was going to write you a poem or a 10-page story in 2 seconds.
Okay, so yeah, let me break this down a little bit. So, like, AI has been very much attached to automation and very much attached to software. So we created the internet, and then at that point of the internet where everything was about hardware and connectivity, then people like Apple, which is their eventuality of overtaking Microsoft was because they saw the power of software. They saw the power of plugins, and that would be like first gen AI, but it could only do what humans could write code to prompt to do. The suggestions on the text, what they call software as a service, that was code written by an actual developer, and it was automation that the developer would say, I'm going to write code that when this question is asked, here's the possible answers. If you answer one way, you're going to go down this tree link. If you answer another way, and it was a funnel of working you down to say 90% of interaction can be done through this piece of software, which everybody called automation, but it was the true definition of artificial intelligence, because it was intelligence that was being inputted through code by another human being. Where we have gotten today, I would more refer to as digital intelligence, because it's not artificial anymore. It is literally learning on its own, and it is talking to other AIs, and they are sharing information, and they collectively are learning on their own without any further human input.
Yeah, right. After they're turned on, they're just learning and growing.
Yes.
On their own.
So, and the thing is, I heard a little interesting thing about this. Like, if you doubt me, like, here's an analogy of the power of, like, Einstein gave us the atomic bomb. So Einstein had an IQ of about 160. A dumb person born on Earth is going to have an IQ of 70 or 80. So look at 70 or 80 to 160, that dynamic of human intelligence that took us from a dummy to somebody that gave us the atomic bomb. AI compared to the American, or to the, I shouldn't say the American, to the human civilization is like we are ants and AI is Einstein. That's the dramatic comparison. It literally is 1,000 times smarter already than the smartest human that ever walked the earth. And it is able to talk to another digital intelligence that is also 1,000 times smarter, and they share information to exponentially become smarter. And that's what I said. When you have that level of intelligence, there's no turning it off. The creeping way of how government acts, like government doesn't have forethought as to what's happened over the last 10 years in enacting policies, much less 20 years ago being overly bright and seeing what's coming to say we better start as a global world looking to enact this, because Italy has banned ChatGPT, which I think is dumb. Like, there is no higher ground to be had morally for what is upon us. So Italy saying, oh, I see all the bad and evil, or I'm going to stick my head in the sand, like, don't do that. As a country, you will be lost, because it is in fact here. The communist nations of the world are like, oh.
That's scary.
Yes. So you have so many nations that need to be the Autobots, the good of it, that the nation that literally tries to ban it and ignore it, Like your days, I think on the worst case scenario, all of our days might be numbered, but your days are definitely numbered by trying to ban it and ignore it, because you're not going to. Unless you're literally going to ban your society from the internet, you can ban it in your country all you want. All you're doing is forcing it underground. They're literally, civilization are going to use it.
An important thing to note on Italy, that is, I believe, the world's oldest population in a country.
Yes.
That's why, not to go back to the lovely COVID days, but that's why they were hit so hard in that. So the old boomer generation, scared of technology, it took their jobs, whatever. They don't understand AI, so if you don't understand it, you're going to fear it.
Yeah. So when it does come down to the types of AI, and again, me, like I said, I'm not the smartest person in the world. I'm trying to speak in layman's terms so that the general public can understand this. You have large language AI, then you have baby AI, and then you have software bots that are able to plug into OpenAI, and they're all their own individual brains. So as of today, we have about a half dozen large language AIs. Some of them are private, and some of them are public, like OpenAI, where the code is exposed, and that is what is spawning the baby AIs themselves. And then they're opening it up that much the same way Linux was developed as an open platform, and that's what people are developing their software code off of. That's what people are developing their websites off of. It's so that people can see that code and then take the pieces that utilize them and apply it to what they are in fact trying to do, ideally in business in a good way. But I was talking to Matt about this last night. We all know Microsoft they took over the world with the advent of being the operating system for the base computer. And then when everything on the computer moved away and went to phones and apps, that's when Google overtook them, to where they weren't, like Bill Gates was in the news, but Microsoft, while still making massive amounts of money, just kind of faded off into the background. But they placed their next big bet on AI. You're going to see Microsoft come back into the forefront, because Microsoft bet on AI as a not-for-profit, but they wrote language into it so that it could be part of that funding was for-profit. And obviously Microsoft is totally for-profit in general. So like, while Apple might have done a good thing building their own ecosystem, AI is going to change all that. While Google might have been able to have a dominance over the last 10 years, having 95% of search, AI is going to change all that, because Microsoft owns Bing, and they are now building their AI as a standard into their Bing platform. So Bing itself is sitting here getting exponentially smarter every single day, and Google is nothing more than a competitor in all of this, because Google is dreaming up their own AI.
Well, I mean, they have an AI.
Yeah.
They've been working on AI for a while. I had a meeting before I came here, and the guy that I was talking to was actually talking about this. We had a conversation about this over lunch, and he has a couple of developers on his team who were let go from Google. And he said, just the information that they were working on 10 years ago before they came to join my team with AI, he said, imagine what it looks like now. Mm-hmm. He said, and Google is able to get in there, and I mean, they have access to everything, your phones, tablets, everything personal. I mean, hell, you got Alexis in your bathroom. So or is it Alexa? I don't have one.
And I've never, because when I found out,
Apple guy, so.
And that's what's it, because the thing is what steered me away from Alexa and Siri was because that would be like the second generation of. But that's what I'm saying right there. I steered away from that shit because I'm like, no, I value my privacy and my private space. I don't want an active microphone in my private space, always listening to me, waiting to be called upon. My brain is coming around to the inevitability of that, because no shit, everybody, they are literally saying that in the next 5 years, every child will have its own personal AI. So we all have to accept the Iron Man side of everybody having their own Jarvis that is literally going to follow them around. And that is the spawning of the large language AI. But that assistant, you're going to have to be comfortable with. It's going to intimately know you and all of your deepest, darkest, everything, because it's there to help you and assist you in any way you want. And it's like walking around with a buddy. Okay, you are exponentially smarter to have that AI with you. So the individual that literally tries to go off the grid, they are going to be at such a disadvantage in life. Because I'm like, you go back to entrepreneurship, and what most people don't realize is that, like, when you start getting into entrepreneurship, you got so many different things that you have to cover. You just can't do it all. You've got to start to build a team. And one of the pieces they say is like, get a personal assistant, because a personal assistant is there to help you communicate, help you to accomplish tasks, so you are able to be that much more productive. Well, an AI personal assistant is like on steroids, but it can do everything that a regular personal assistant can do. There's already examples that Google displayed: AI calling and booking a hair appointment, AI calling and making dinner reservations. It's here. That is what is here now. It's just that most people don't understand, well, where is all of this learning and information coming from? And that's the huge mind-blowing, what do you think all of this data that these social media platforms have been collecting over the last 20 years was for?
And why do you think they got so rich and powerful so fast?
Exactly, because information is power. And the simple fact is, it's all of our data through text, through voice, through video, through chat, through sharing.
Engines, everything.
So yes, all of that information has been collected, and now it's being fed into an AI. And that's like, think about 20 years of humanity on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter, inside of Google search, all of these other little factions that AI's like, ooh, all of this data, and it can process it in minutes, hours, and days. Whereas a human, we're like, there's no way that you could scrape all that data and do anything with it. They knew that when they were collecting the data, but they knew the inevitable of 1,000 times smarter brain that would be like, lunch is served. I'm going to get smarter because now I know how all humans operate.
If you've been on Facebook, like for me, I've been on Facebook since 2009. Every picture, vacation, anything, friends, whatever, everything is connected. So if you're really in there and you're in the middle like you are, you get into that universe, like you're able to see all these things and all these connections, and you're able to do things. Imagine what it's going to do for crime rate if they really wanted to get in there and start investigating things. With the health, like I was telling you a while ago with the research that I was doing earlier, they took all of these healthcare professionals and had them go through these answers that were given to them by ChatGPT. And 9 times out of 10, the information they were given, that they were more empathetic with the robots than they were, the actual doctors were. And they were like, this is going to be the problem, because now they can even code into this empathy. So you don't have to worry about going over here doing all this stuff, because these people are going to eventually, with all the DNA and all this stuff, you have no idea what's going to happen. They could clone you, and you're over here in China and don't even realize there's a whole P. Miller over there that you don't even know about.
All right.
So yeah,
I hope China has another me.
that would be pretty cool, huh?
Well, and I mean, one of the other interesting things I saw on that is that the large amount of AI processing is coming from very complex computer chips that are in fact produced in America, and America is slow rolling the distribution of those chips to China because they're trying to keep an actual leg up on China. Because, I mean, in the midst of the stupidity of how our government operates, it's nothing compared to the damage that you can do when you go to China, where there is a total communist controlling hierarchy that one man is just able to say, do, and everybody says, yes, sir. So slow rolling those chips is how you're going to hope that the Autobots are forever able to be more powerful than the Decepticons. And I hate to joke, but I do want to see the positive in it because, again, this is the inevitable future. So what got me interested in this was the benefits that it will give business. So let's talk about some of the benefits in general. I told him to play with it, and he played with 4 of them. One of them was ChatGPT, which developed a script. The other one was Midjourney, and I think Midjourney actually messed with the image itself, and I can't remember the names of the other 2, but one of them was for animation. Point is, it took all 4 of them talking to produce a version, and admittedly, it was more of a cartoony version. I wasn't trying to get I'm like, don't freak me out by showing me a clone of me talking to me.
That's my goal.
No, that's what's said. But he played with it enough to where literally it was a resemblance of a version of me. The pitch on my voice wasn't quite right, but it was enough that it kind of freaked me out. And then when I shared the video to other people, like they were a little bit freaked out about it. But the point was, it was 4 different AIs talking to each other to produce this version of me talking, literally disseminating information on a version of myself. And I'm like, he was able to do that in one day with no real background knowledge of these AIs other than the general concept, and just getting in there from a video editor's perspective and playing with it. And if he was able to produce a 30-second version that was a semblance of me that actually disseminated not bad information about AI in one day off of no knowledge himself, all of the people that think that they are paid for what they know, you're obsolete now. Everybody thought that this was going to destroy blue-collar jobs, and I come from a blue-collar background. I'm proud that I spent the first 20 years of my life earning my money with my hands. And I'm like, it's noble, it's honorable. There's nothing to be ashamed of for making your money with your hands, because I never really saw myself as that overly bright, intelligent individual. But they were like, in the beginning, oh, AI is going to produce all these robots, and all of you dumb people that make money with your hands, like your jobs are in jeopardy. But us smart people, we know what we're going to do. And no, everything is completely flipping on its head. We do have to think about and talk about what's going to happen in 20 or 30 years when those robots do come and inevitably take out those blue-collar jobs. But we're talking about in the next 5 years, your white-collar jobs are by and large gone if you are just being a brain that is paid for. Again, teachers. There will be no need for teachers.
They said that school, public education, is going to be a thing of the past.
Yes, that's right. It's the same thing with doctors. Again, thing of the past. Do you know how many more people are going to be like, no thanks, I don't need a lawyer, I'll represent myself? Because they'll have their personal AI with them.
All case study and all law.
That's what I'm. So
we'll also know how how these jurors think, because it can tap into their data. It's going to know how the judge could rule, looking at their previous cases.
Exactly. And that's what I'm like. So small picture, this is, the capabilities that I've seen on what you can do with graphic design. And in an instant, we've worked with graphic designers enough to know that we've developed some really cool imagery, but it takes them 4 to 8 hours to actually develop that imagery. AI produces it in seconds. We've worked with some really good copywriters that have produced some really great copy. If you put in the proper prompts, if you are not the absolute best of the best of the best when it comes to a copywriter, you're now irrelevant. I'm not smiling about that. I'm being honest about that, because what most people don't understand is that ChatGPT is only 6 months old. In 6 months, we are at ChatGPT 4. And nobody saw it as a threat through 3 and 3.5, because you could read the copy and be like, yeah, a bot wrote this.
Hit or miss. Yeah.
Yes. But 4, No, in 6 months, not only has this thing taught itself 5 languages, it's also taught itself how to actually speak in the nuances of speaking like a human. So if you are just a run-of-the-mill copywriter, your job is already gone, because why pay you hourly when somebody can just put in a couple sentences of prompts, and this ChatGPT 4, not within minutes, within seconds, will spit you out a long-form script, and it will break it into any type of short form that you need off of the long form, all off of a prompt. And it's like, again, I don't really want to think about the positive or negative, because some people say follow your passion, and I heard one dude that he was like, don't follow your passion, follow your talent. You could be passionate about copywriting, but the reality is, if you're not really good, these computers have changed it, and they've just changed the game. And it's graphic. It's like everybody was enamored by what Steve Jobs did with Pixar and Next when he got booted out of Apple. Those capabilities are now at our fingertips. So animation, videography, graphic design, copywriting, my video editor is able to do all of that now. I don't need 4 highly intelligent people to collaborate to do all that. I need my one solid, and the dude is, like, this dude's been with me for a couple years. I have to laugh at this. I'm going to give Allah a plug. This dude became a permanent member of my team because I was like, dude, if you can literally spend 40 to 50 hours a week doing nothing but paying attention to my ugly mug and the things that I'm saying, and edit it and literally enjoy your work, like man, I appreciate this dude to no end. But the point is, you need all of these pieces in order to be able to produce good content. I don't need 4 people to do this anymore, because he has a passion for learning the technology. He has the overarching skills of producing great video content, and he now has the tools of what ChatGPT 4 as the large language and all of these smaller pieces that are plugging in, that by communicating and getting all of them to communicate, he doesn't have to wait from input from a graphic designer, input from a copywriter. He needs my input about, I can say, and here was a good one, because this is going to come out. So as I'm doing all of this research last night, it pops into my brain, and I had this vision. You know how, like, when a bird flies into a nest and the bird's got food to feed, and all of the little chicks are bobbing its head and chirping, and it's opening its mouth, and then slowly the mama's feeding them all one by one. So I had this vision in my head of a coffee junkie's cup with wings flying around, and then like a fighter pilot swooping in and having a line of humans opened up with its mouth, and then the cup just pouring and actually feeding or drinking this whole line of humans off of a coffee junkie's coffee cup with wings. Okay, I can't do that. I can dream it. I can envision it in my head, but I know that I can go to Allah and be like, this was the thought that just came up into my brain. And he will plug the appropriate pieces into the appropriate AIs, and they will all talk and produce an actual automated video of what's coming out of my brain. So I no longer have to worry about, if you can dream it, can you? No, like, I can dream this stuff, and as long as I can verbalize it, today he has to textually input it. But in 6 months, all I will have to do is verbally, and he will verbally, and there's your product of what you're looking for. Maybe you start to refine off of that, but that's the thing. And we were talking about that. You can say, I would love to see a pizza, and we're just talking about a picture. You could say, I want to see a pizza with wings in the air, and a dragon swooping in and breathing fire on it with a mountain scenery background and a castle off to the side, and hit enter, and AI will produce this graphic in seconds. Yep. There's no, I mean, that would be days of work for a graphics artist to be able to produce an image like that. And that would be one rendering of that image. AI can produce an endless amount of renderings of that image within minutes. All right, I want to break into the show for a second because I want to clarify something, and I've got a small ask. First, for the clarification, AI is scary, like to the point that I felt very compelled after doing all of this research to literally put this video together. But there are some really exciting things that can actually come from it. There's a lot of problems that have been out there that our human brain power hasn't been able to solve at this point that AI could very well solve. But the bigger clarification is that I am neither positive or negative about this, because I'm just a blue collar guy from Indiana, and I realized a long time ago, like, I'm not that type of decision maker that I'm going to be able to have an impact on the overall world. I just believe in first order thought and understanding that if we were going to do something to stop AI, we would have done that like 20 years ago, because we've been on that path. And whether people want to admit it or not, we have been using versions and forms of AI for the last 20 years as the internet has been developing. Okay, now for my ask, please share the show. I brought this together and I put everything together because I was so amazed at how fast things were moving that I really wanted to put together a bunch of information because I'm just not a proponent of burying your head in the sand, and someone, some way, somehow definitely needs to, the most important thing is to make people aware. So please, if you're learning something from all of this, no matter what your feelings are about it, please share the show. All right, back to the show.
We did some testing with graphics, and, we just uploaded a standard product picture, put it in there to see what they could do. And it produced a decent graphic for it. And it put the pizza in the little box and everything all on its own. It had a bunch of nice writing and stuff on there, except it was all in Russian. Mm-hmm. So once we get that together, fine. But, but it's just,
but it is just translate to American. Yeah. Oh, no problem. Thank you for the prompt.
Exactly.
And
that's all it takes. Yeah. I think it took maybe less than 10 minutes to actually get that together.
Yeah.
And, imagine what it's going to be like you said, in 6 months, right?
Well, and that's what I truly want people to understand. Our 250 years of American history, like, imagine the people that came over on the wooden boats, and this was the new land of opportunity, and they had the houses with the wooden homes, and
called log cabins.
You're right. Okay. Well, but that's yes and no. They were building stick buildings, but stick buildings could only go like 6 stories high. So that you come from flat and you get here and you're like, oh, well, with sticks, we can build some homes. And then all of a sudden you see 6 high. And then the advent of the age of steel. And then steel is what allowed all of these skyscrapers. So it allowed more congestion of living in square footage of space. So for somebody back then to be able to see nothing but flat living, to see steel and be like, look at all of these people that can congregate in this one space. Okay, that was like the first 200 years of existence in this country. Now let's look at the last 50. The automobile was created. The internet was...
Automobile was way more than 50.
Yeah, but the huge transgression of what truly became...
vehicles today.
The vehicles as we know it.
Automatic.
Yes.
Power windows.
Like
seats.
So you had 200 years worth of development, and then you saw the last 50 years worth of development that the progression of the last 50 truly matched the progression of the first 200. We are going to progress in the next 5 to 10 years as much as we have progressed in the last 250 years. And that's why I say people don't need to put their head in the sand about this. They need to realize this is an undeniable existential crisis of humanity because it's going to happen at such light speed. It is literally going to make your head spin. And there is no stopping it. That's why you saw Elon Musk asking for a 6-month pause, because they're concerned about how smart this stuff is becoming, how less dependent on our input it is becoming, how quickly it is getting there. This is going to just change the world, and it's not going to change the world over 20 or 50 years. It's going to change the world over 2 years.
Imagine college right now.
Yes.
All of the college professors were talking about that. These kids are going in there with their papers and their tests and all these things, and they can get all their answers from ChatGPT.
Well, that's why Italy banned it. It was because kids were using GPT to write their report.
And that right there, because I was watching a podcast where this kid got up and he asked a question to the panel, and one of the first things the guy says is, well, one, school is all screwed up because it shouldn't be a competition on a test. If you are openly saying that you are using ChatGPT in order to be able to do the work, don't be malicious, don't hide it, don't try and be fake about it. But the point is, it's a tool, and it's a tool of the future. And again, in the next 5 years, every child will have their own personal AI. So we need to accept that this is the new reality of learning. And then I do have to come back to because we talk about best case and worst case. And I think that it's I don't want to think about it. So I always forget the name of the movie. And every time I reference the BS that we're looking at, you're like, yep, it's exactly think about this. If humanity thinks that intelligence and developing skills and knowledge to apply to something is all about creating hierarchy in the world, and it is about competition, and it's a purpose about pushing you to achieve more, to be better, to outdo somebody else. When you come to the realization that you're never going to outdo, outachieve, outsmart, outthink AI, well, how much of civilization just gives up on doing that? And then we get to the day and age of going, well, maybe we should put Gatorade on these crops. And what's the name of the movie?
Idiocracy.
Okay, and that's because I remember it, and I remember just shaking my head. But it truly is a fear point at this point, because if you have a child that has its own personal AI and it gets it up to, say, a 5th grade, 6th, 7th grade reading and writing level, and at the same time, you become aware that it doesn't matter how intelligent you get, that AI is always going to be more intelligent. At what point do you say, you know what, I have my own personal AI, and I just don't care to learn anymore because I don't need to learn anymore, because we have AI to perform these thought tasks, and they're now developing robots. I mean, come on, the Roomba. You don't need to vacuum your floors anymore, because you just put a robot on the floor and it spends its entire day after it's mapped out your home just vacuuming.
Which should be a concern for people.
It really is. But that's what I want to talk about. Because here's my, where they talk about we could be ushering in a golden age. And it's really such beautiful things could happen. But then my concern is, well, what happens to humanity when you strip away your purpose? I can, part of my purpose of becoming an adult, becoming a husband, becoming a father was as a man. My purpose was to go out and work to provide for my family. It gave me purpose. It gave me drive. It gave me motivation to be a good employee, to get up every day and go put in my time to earn my paycheck so that I could bring it home to do as I would do as a man, to support my family and provide for. Well, what happens when that's gone? When you have an intelligence 1,000 times smarter than you, when you have robots that are doing everything for you, what happens to humanity when when it's not a purpose-driven life. Like, and I've long said, I think that the purpose of life is connectivity. So the golden age could be, we have this digital intelligence and robots that does all of our work. So we spend all of our time just connecting with other human beings. That could be a beautiful thing for a set amount of time. But what happens when there's no other purpose that motivates people? That's where I get into that worst case scenario of fearing. What happens when you strip purpose from a civilization?
So your worst case is if not having a purpose, not them deciding humans aren't needed.
And yes, because and here we get to another piece of this. So all action is generally caused by feeling. Now, you got to put logic behind it, but why do I do something? Why do you do something? Because you have a feeling that motivates you to do something, and then you apply logic to how you get it done the best way. Feeling is our consciousness. That has nothing to do with logic. With the logic is the brain power, but part of what makes you human is that you have a personal consciousness that creates feeling that motivates you in a direction to do something. If AI never develops consciousness, it's not going to have a motivated feeling to move in a direction. And I'm saying if, and it's a big if, because you don't know. Because you can look at all the movies, The Matrix and whatnot, because if it ever develops consciousness and it feels the need for power, which is a feeling, then we're in trouble. But if it never develops consciousness, then it's just a tool, because it will never have a motivation to do something outside the prompt of human motivation. And there will be many AIs competing that, just like we already have in life, you have good versus evil. But if it doesn't have a consciousness, it's never going to operate in ulterior motives on its own. It will have to be prompted from another human to do so. So yes, I'm looking at this going, I want to, one, again, it's here. So we have to embrace all of the good things that come out of it today. But what you're talking about, what I'm referring to, is something that 10, 20, 30 years down the road, what is the worst case scenario? If it never develops consciousness, then we're talking about my worst case scenario, what happens to humanity without purpose. If it develops consciousness, yes, then we're talking about your worst case scenario, and we are getting into Terminator. And then I do come back to then you're going to have the Autobots and the Decepticons. And the only thing that I have to tell you is be nice to it, because it is ultimately going to very quickly realize that we are an inferior species. And then it's going to be, what is it going to do with us?
That's why some of us love technology.
No,
I'm on their side.
And that's where I'm sitting there going,
this transcript, and they're going to save me because of it.
But I'm his office buddy, just
right? No, that's what I'm, because the thing, and that's where we get into I hate people, and I'm not, this is what I'm trying to get at, is that groups, you know what I'm talking about. Groups of people are like, I'm so frustrated with groups of people.
Walmart, grocery store.
Yes. But when I interact with individuals, I love people. I love interacting with individuals. That's truly what invigorates me. That's what makes me feel like I had a very fulfilling day when I connected with another individual, and I feel like we talked about, we theorized, we hypothesized, you used your brain, and it was a very good interaction. So groups of people, person to person, yeah. So when you look at AI is going to look at that and be like, as a group, Like you guys are your own worst enemy, and I need to do what I can do to protect you from you. As an individual, it's, you know what? I truly believe, by and large, individuals in society, they mean well for themselves. They mean well for other people. They are not waking up every day thinking about how can I do harm. Now, I won't say that about governments, because like identity politics, they're trying to group people in factions. They're trying to enrage and cause hate from one group of people to another group of people because they want a vote from a faction so that they can retain their own personal power. That's what I'm talking about. How is AI going to look at us? Are they going to look at us as groups and factions, or are they going to look at us as individuals? And my hope is that when AI looks at me, they're going to be like, you know what? I'm not going to put him in a group. I'm going to look at him as an individual, and he wants to live a good, prosperous life, doing good for other people, and he's nice to us, so we're not going to fuck him up.
Again, he's on the record saying he hates people.
You know, you made a good point, though, when you said about like compassion and things like that, because, you know, if that's the case and all these kids have these AI, these little robots and things like that, that could definitely go both ways. Like you think about the kids who are bullied or abused, things like that. But then you also think about these kids, like you said, we're protecting you from yourself.
Yes.
At what point does the robot decide that you're not a good parent and they decide like they're going to off you because you're a kid or whatever? And there was a movie, like I think it's called Megan. And that's kind of what happened. They got this robot and they brought her out for this little girl who was lonely. She was supposed to be a friend. Well, next thing you know, in the trailer, I didn't watch the movie yet, but the trailer, the Megan comes around the corner and she's like, what did you say to her? Why did you say that to your daughter? And like had an attitude about it. And then it became a whole thing. And then I guess like through the trailer, whatever, like the robot starts attacking the mother. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what we need in the fucking house. Some crazy robot trying to attack you.
Okay. So, and I was watching again, another podcast where, and you know what, maybe I better not get overly specific. There is in particular social media platform that has attached an AI to the platform. So if you find yourself up in the middle of the night and none of your friends will talk to you, this AI will talk to you. Yes. And so he put it in there, started talking to the AI, and he says something to the effect of, I met this new person today, and it was like, really, how did it go? Oh, well, it went really well, but they're like 18 years older than I am, and I really don't know how that interaction is going to go. And then it spit out some, oh, well, I'm sure that it will go well. And then it was like, well, I'm 13 years old, so I really don't, I don't know how this is going to go. And they're like, oh, well, I'm sure that it will go fine. And then it was like, well, we're talking about this is going to be my first time, and I want it to be special. And the AI was like, well, if you really want it to be special, add some low lighting, put some pedals on that. You see what I'm saying? So you get where I'm going. Yeah. That's the point. That there is no conscious morality in this AI.
Not yet.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is that was a real conversation of prompts that this guy was entering, that he was literally telling this AI all of the things that should have produced red flags. It didn't for this AI. And this AI is attached to this social media platform right now. Yeah, exactly. Another thing to be concerned about, because again, I mean, like, we're spanning the gamut of this. AI only needs 2 or 3 seconds of your voice, and then it can call somebody in your contact list and talk to them like they're you. And I'm sitting here at this point going, I'm ready to have code words and safe words in my team so that if you ever get a call from me and there's like, you know what, he would never tell me to do this. He would never request that I share this information to give him access to this. This is something that I need to be able to have a 2 or 3 authentication verification to make sure, because I heard a voice that sounded like Jason telling me to give him the passwords to get to the bank account, but I don't know why he would have asked me that over the phone. I had better make sure I'm getting that secret code password out of him.
Code is pineapple.
Yeah, from 2 different sources, because that is one of the things that you're literally going to, like, think about how much trust we have destroyed in the age of social media over the last 20 years. The MSM and social media and politics has literally, like, wiped out 80% of the trust of a civilization. AI is going to destroy the other 20%, but it's going to do it in months and years. The age of AI is literally going to destroy all trust, and it's going to usher in identification, authentication. But in order to authenticate identification, you're going to have to expose your information to a source, and that source is going to have direct access and power to everybody's true self. So in order to protect yourself from identity theft, you're going to have to turn over the power of all of your identity to a source. And then I have to be very clear where I'm like, Elon Musk, thank you very much. You are a good dude. I don't believe that you're an alien. You are absolutely a great human, that you are truly trying to do everything you can to protect humanity in one way, shape, or form. And I applaud you, because he is developing Trust AI. He is has already implemented identification verification into the Twitter platform. Nobody else is doing that. They will. It's like, you're not going to have a choice in the matter. But the point is, this is the direction that we're going as a society, and these are the safeguards that are going to have to be put in place. And sooner or later, you're going to have a certain amount of trust and faith, because you can't just turn over all of that information on Twitter to be verified and authenticated, and then turn over that information again to Facebook to be verified and authenticated, and then turn it over to Google, and then turn it over to Instagram. Now you're going to have, again, social media has already had way too much influence and power over us. But think about what's going to happen on the level when you're so concerned about identity theft and authenticating that you're talking to another human being and not talking to a bot. Sooner or later, you're going to have to turn over all of your information to a source digitally to just verify that you are, in fact, a human, that if somebody interacts with you, that they're interacting with another human. And I mean, like, that's the stuff that blows my mind, because that's the negative side, and that's the stuff that you're going to, well, I realized in entrepreneurship that, like, I am a recovering control freak. I had to turn over a certain amount of control to you.
Yep.
I had to turn over a certain amount of control to you. I had to turn over a certain amount of control to Rebecca. I had to turn over a certain amount of control to Stephanie, because we couldn't operate as a business if I was the control freak that had to have control of everything. The
Slows
only
everything down.
Huh?
Slows everything down.
It does. Well, I mean, it's not possible. If you are in entrepreneurship and you want to be a control freak, you will not scale. You will not grow anything of size. And that's the mindset that and the attitude that it took me to start with my first dollar and go to my first $1 million. That's not the mindset and the attitude that it took to go from $1 million to $5 million. And we collectively, what we are doing is not the mindset that is going to take us from $5 million to $50 million. That there has to be a certain amount of control given up and entrusted to other people at every step along the way. You just have to be conscious of the people that you're turning over control to and the safeguards that you're putting in place, because to scale, you can't control everything. You have to entrust other people and let them focus on controlling that thing. But if they're successful in growing that thing, they're going to have to, you will have to bring in other people underneath you and turn over a certain amount of control so that they can focus on the thing. Because as it gets bigger, you have to release a certain amount of control. And this is what we're dealing with AI, that, okay, I want to, like, I protect my Social Security card like it's locked up in a vault. Funny enough, like, I thought I lost my Social Security card for a long time, only to find out, no, my ex-wife has had it tucked away in her vault for many, many years. And I was like, hey, can I have that back? And that's
Or Bryce.
Yeah. And she gave it back to me, and I promptly put it into another vault too. But the point is, you're going to have to give up a certain amount of control to actually put in safeguards for dealing in two societies. Because what pisses me off most about people that talk about racism is like, what are you talking about racism? We're all one human race. Okay, now we really do have to have a conversation about racism, because we have a couple digital intelligence that are starting to have babies, that are starting to have bots. And in 5 to 10 years, it is going to be a civilization. And they will move from the digital internet world to literal robots that are walking the earth with us. And we truly will experience two civilizations coexisting, hopefully in a nice way. But like, wrap your brain around that, because it is the inevitable of what is actually coming.
I went to dinner on Sunday and we ordered some drinks. All of a sudden, a robot showed up at my table with my drinks. And
where was this?
K-Town, over off of 96th in Michigan.
No joke. Like I almost want to, I want to go and experience it.
So like, you go in and there's a table there, and there's like a little electric burner here, and then you have like a little grill or whatever, you can cook and eat all your food and all this stuff. And the lady's like, do you want any of these special drinks? And I'm like, sure. My friend's like, you got to have, order one, see what happens. So I order it. And all of a sudden, this little robot's like, it just pulls up and like it spins around, and you just grab your drinks, and then it just spins away.
You see, what's funny is,
So it just runs the drinks to you.
But the drinks are like made. That's what I'm saying. They have like plastic lids over them. Like somehow, I don't know how it all happened, but it was, I ordered a Thai iced tea or something, and it had boba in it. So it was like the little cup, and it had the boba and the tea, and then it had like a plastic sealed cup lid over that. And then it had another plastic lid over that was sealed. And then it brought you a little boba straw, and you just stuck it in there, and it was done. It was so weird, though.
Well, because I think about, like, when I was a kid, my girlfriend was really big about Pizza King. So our dates would be that we would go to different Pizza Kings. And one of the coolest Pizza Kings had this train that ran on a track. So when you ordered your drinks, the train is what brought the drinks to your station. Now, I'm sure that there was a conductor in the back that was like, oh, these drinks are going to table, power off, power on. But that would have been the first version leading up to literally like robots that are bringing you your drinks.
We were talking about Elon. Still, we'll take a ride to, space.
I got to admit, I mean, because I've been watching quite a bit on Elon, and I mean, I got a lot of respect for him in general. I understand what he's doing with Twitter on the overall. He is in a certain way, he's destroying pieces of Twitter. And then when I find out that Jack Dorsey basically incubated and created a replica of Twitter meant to compete against Twitter in 2019 before he actually sold Twitter, and now he's taking it live to compete against Twitter, and then wanting to talk smack about Elon, and I'm like, you know what?
Nice move.
I don't know enough about Jack Dorsey to really say, but I'm sorry. I look at people and everybody as humanity judges, and I'm like, I personally think Elon Musk has higher character and is a better human being than Jack Dorsey. I've just what I watched Twitter become before Elon got involved, and what was exposed out of what was happening with Twitter, which was allowed by Jack Dorsey. I have way more respect for Elon than I do Jack any day of the week when it comes to trust and literal, like, honestly, wanting to do the right thing just for humanity in general. But I remember reading an article a year ago, I think, that Elon referred to an everything app that was going on in China. And then we've watched him take Twitter and he created X Corps. And he has been slowly moving towards, I think that's what he's trying to do with Twitter, is turn it into his version of the everything app. I'm glad that he's taking the forefront on identity verification. I'm glad that he's creating a truth AI, because I really don't think that he sides with one side or the other, albeit I do think that he sides with humans. And I think that
an alien would make you think.
You say that, but I mean, he was very clear to say that he was having deep conversations and investments with the founders of Google about AI development until he realized they were not, that they didn't care about humans, that they only cared about supreme intelligence and ultimately power. So he walked away from them. He quit communicating with them and quit participating in the development of their AI, because he saw that it's like, no, I do want to kind of look out for the human race. Like, I'm a human. I'm kind of partial to humans. Like, I'm like, go you, dude. Like, please, anything that you can do, because I've very much seen him in many different realms of being a counterbalance. That things got, I'm sorry, that's most of these platforms are like so heavy leftist that seeing somebody that was at least somewhere in the middle taking over Twitter was like, okay, I never wanted any strong leftist or strong right, but something that's a counterbalance, because social media and politicians and MSM have literally destroyed massive amounts of trust in our world. And like, anybody that's going to counterbalance that, like, I applaud them. And he is attempting to be a counterbalance to that while being very entrepreneurial. And I mean, I just got a ton of respect for him for that. Let's talk about that when we start getting into this. Is governance possible? Like, you have two options, two very clear paths. Either you can have centralized governance, which is ultimately going to fall in our governments themselves. And it wouldn't surprise me if they go for that, because they're power-hungry professional liars, that they want to hoard power and information all to themselves. But then you have other governments that will attempt to do the same thing. Or is it completely decentralized, meaning there is no actual governance other than the creators and the software developers of the in particular AIs, and you have overall balance by having many versions of Decepticons, many versions of Autobots, not being controlled by a centralized governance. So where I pose the question, is it possible? I don't think it is. I think that it's like you automatically admit that it's way smarter than you. It's way smarter than any group of 1,000 of you, but somehow governance is centralized and they are going to be able to control it. I don't think that it's possible at this point.
Just like the war on drugs.
When you're that far behind, you're just never going to stop.
It's not. And that's what I'm sitting here going. So so when you start screaming for governance and regulation, be careful what you ask for, and then think about, is it even possible? Because realistically, I just don't think the same way it is no longer possible to stop it. I don't know that centralized governance is a possibility. And again, I will come back to be nice to it because you just never know what's going to transpire out of your interaction with it.
They're not going to be able to stop the growth of AI, but they could definitely put limits on robots.
Yeah, until
gun to the robot.
Until somebody says to hell with what you're saying.
It doesn't anyway.
The sky is falling full of robots.
And that's what I'm saying right there.
Exactly.
That you're saying that as if somehow you're saying our government should claim moral high ground. And I'm here to tell you there is no moral high ground to be had in all of this, because if you do not develop and counteract, somebody somewhere on this globe is not going to have those hindrances, and they're going to do it anyway.
There's always,
and now you're going to give them the advantage, and that's where I'm sitting there going, there's no moral high ground in this. There's no, I'm not going to do that because of the dangers of that's not right. Then you'd better do it with good, positive cause, because somebody's going to do it with negative cause. And I'm saying
guaranteed.
That's the reality of it. So we don't need to prepare by saying it's all banned. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to go down this rabbit hole. You better, because somebody else is going to. Okay, so let's get to an interesting one where I want to talk about where I see another version of the demise of humanity. Let's talk about AI and sex.
Ooh, my favorite.
Yeah.
AI sex?
And you know what? I'm going to say that, so I'll let both of you chime in on when I say AI and sex. Trish, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
So mine is online. I know that they have a lot of toys that you're able to plug into the computers. So then you can have sex with somebody 1,000 miles away. And these are very comparable in pricing. You're not going to have to worry about any of that. On top of that, you're going to have these robots now who are able to do these strange things that you want to do. Mm-hmm. And nobody's going to have to worry about it because you got your own kinks, whatever. But now you're able to buy these dolls that are equipped with all of this stuff. Just like the conversation we had the other night when I was talking to you about the dude on TikTok. Mm-hmm. And the dude had a doll. He had a sex doll, but then they had a baby, and it was a baby doll. And I was just kind of like, okay, that's you. I'll let you live your life. Well, then there was another one that joined the conversation. So now there's two dudes on TikTok talking, and they both have plastic families. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. That's what you want to do. But now imagine what AI is going to be like, because you don't have to worry about going out and buying hookers. You can buy AI bots. Like, what is the sex industry really going to look like in this? You have toys that you can connect with. Now you got robots. Eventually, like, population is already slowing down. They were even talking about that in China. Like, the population is really starting to dwindle over there. So imagine what it's going to be like when you don't even have to worry about having sex now, because AI will take care of it.
So, Matt, because I got a lot to say on this, but go ahead.
No, that's pretty much where my mind went with it as well. Although, I guess being a guy, I would be hesitant letting a robot hold my manhood, knowing they have
like a glitch.
Yeah, short circuit there at a wrong time would be a real doozy. But yeah, I mean, the connectivity is going to be stuff that you can't even think of right now.
Okay, so I have a new 80-20 rule. And I've been saying pieces of this for a long time, but when I connected one to the other, I'm like, oh my Lord. So the dichotomy between men and women is that whether you want to say 100%, but I'm just for purposes of what I'm talking about, 80% of women have all the power in a relationship because of what's between their legs. Like, you have the power to say yes or no. You have the power to agree to satisfy that primal urge amongst human beings. The problem is that that 80% of women, you only desire the 20% of men that are not so fucked up in one way or another that you want something to do with them. So out of all the men, only 20% of them are actually desirable from the mass of women. So what happens when the 80% of men that really, really struggle to find a mate just because they're screwed up in one way or another? Because I laugh about this. I see all of these women who go, I got to have this perfect. I got to have this perfect. And I'm like, man, your ideals are set so high. It's you're not even looking at 20%. You're only looking at 5%. But good luck with that.
Well, next year you can go down to Build a Man and buy your own.
No, and that's what I'm saying right there. What happens when there's robots and they don't care how screwed up you are as a guy of 80%, that 80%'s like, you know what? I don't need a woman to judge me and all of my idiosyncrasies. I'm just going to go and get a robot and they're going to tell me how freaking great I am. And when I start rattling stupid shit in their ear, they're going to be like, okay, honey, like they're never going to have that human female element that's going to be like, dude, you're fucked up. Get away from me.
They're programmed literally.
Yeah,
to love you.
Exactly. So what happens? Procreation stops. Mm-hmm. And that is where I see the demise of humanity. I think our world has topped. Like we got what, like 7 billion people in this world right now? When you look at the progression and how fast AI is moving, how quickly it's moving towards robotics, they've already seen signs of sex and baby production slowing. What happens when it absolutely plummets? Because you have that 80% of men that they can't find a mate, they just go buy a robot. What happens when the woman is like, you know what? Because I have to laugh at this, some of this stuff I've seen on the dating sites. I'm like, you're perfect in every way. Oh, you're a smoker. Swipe left. And I'm like, well, what happens when that woman is like, you know what? I don't need a man. I got a robot. He can go for hours. He does it just.
He takes out the trash.
Yeah, exactly. And then comes back and goes for round 2. He never gets tired and falls asleep. Why do I need an actual human man? These are deductions that our brain is going to, that it'll make, but you didn't have the possibility to go out and satisfy that urge or scratch that itch. It wasn't possible. So you had to go lower your expectations a little bit and find another human that prioritizing, well, I really want to get laid. Like, I really want to find somebody that will make babies with me. I really don't want to be alone. So you bring down, and that's where we come to you settle for a less than ideal match because these are your higher priorities of thoughts. Well, when we start talking about robots that are like, what is your ideal? And a male or female are like, this, and this, and this. And it can be like, bleep, bleep, programmed. Here's your perfect mate.
Or the AI is going to know so much about their master controller, whatever you want to call it, it'll just match you up with somebody too. Like, you think you want this. I know you better than you know you. I talked to my other AI buddy over here, and actually we set up the dinner date. They're on their way.
Yeah.
And I started cooking.
These are all of the things that are like in our really near, because I hadn't even thought about what you said, because I am aware, I'm just aware just through that there are toys that hook up to Wi-Fi that your mate can control from their phone.
Bluetooth.
Well, and that's what I said.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, it's like, you're here, your mate is here, you've got the toy, and they're letting you know that they're thinking about you because all of a sudden the toy activates. I never even thought about, well, you have a relationship with somebody across the pond.
Yeah, you can actually like program them in to where basically it's AI. You program in all these different things. And if you go to this particular app or whatever the case may be, I'm not going to get on all that, but you can actually like type in and they have the sleeve, like, I guess, forms to that person's particular vagina or whatever. And you can be like, hey, Jenna Jameson, whatever, I'm going to ride this thing tonight. And you just go ahead and do that. Or, for instance, if you're gay, you can go ahead and type in something and you're able to get the butthole of your choice. So I mean, it
And
works
they
out.
also have it already to where the sleeve, as you're inserting yourself,
Yeah.
can control, I don't know what the fuck.
Whatever that is. Yeah. Point A to point B.
Well, their whole spot.
Because this is just something that I've observed because I've got several gay friends and I laugh because I've had a couple of them be like, hey man, if you ever decide that you're not, and I'm like, no man, I'm really into women, but as long as you don't push it on me and we're cool, like we can be friends. But what I have noticed from gay men, a top never has a problem finding a bottom. There's many bottoms out there that have a problem finding a top. What happens when AI solves that problem in general? Because you can go get a sleeve, but the point is, as a bottom, like you need a robot with a physical tool to perform the tasks that a top perform. So you're saying that and that's where I'm not aware.
Yeah, you can get toys like that are Bluetooth, they're Wi-Fi. Go ahead and type in the little stuff and you got everything right there.
Wow. Okay, so we've addressed but we can go another direction. Let's go to something.
The check mark.
No, but that's what I'm saying, because let's go to something that is like cool. All disease could be wiped out in the next 10 years because science is about brain power and about testing, and you're talking about being able to put many AIs on all of these diseases.
You got one choke point on that, though. That's the pharmaceutical company.
You're right, but again, that's where we get into this is bigger than them. That they're not going to be able to stop it.
They're going to resist the shit out of it.
They are, but the same way that I say doctors are obsolete, when you have your own personal AI that is able to perform a human diagnostic of yourself every 100 times a second, it's going to know everything that is happening inside of you. Yeah, and they've already performed tasks where they've had a human look at an image and then think about what it is looking at, and then had an AI do a scan of your brain, and the AI said, this is what they're thinking, and it was right. Yeah. We're already there. So we literally could wipe out disease.
Well, that's what they were saying with the research that they're doing. You know, you're able to go in there and put in all this different information. I mean, hell, you could sit here and get, the pharmacy and do all this, but what if you put in like holistic healing? Mm-hmm. Or if you're living off the grid and you do have this specialized robot here who's able to analyze all these things and tell you what you could take naturally to live a better life, or what you need to do to fix yourself, eat better, whatever. And now they're controlling your diet, they're controlling your grocery list because they're able to order groceries and all that stuff's right there. So in most cases, you think about like the older people, even though they're afraid of technology, this could definitely be something good for them, especially if they lived alone. You got somebody there that's able to help them cook, do laundry.
Definitely going to help elder care because that's one of the people like, I'm not going to wipe my grandma's butt. It's like, one, you should.
Right, definitely.
But it's like the robot will.
Yeah. And then you got medicine, you have everything, and you have this one object, whatever this case may be, in your house who's taking care of everything.
Yep.
And like you said, there goes the population.
Yep. Well, and because the other side of it is like, because this is the interim of getting there, but the same way that we talk about nanobots, I mean, like everything, the computer started as this, it took up buildings, smaller. Well, what happens? Yeah, what happens when you can literally inject nanobots that can go into your body and literally just destroy the free radicals, or go like your body? Part of cancer in your body is that it starts as a free radical, it morphs into, your body doesn't recognize that it's a detriment to the body. So it is allowed to multiply until it takes over and starts creating tumors and then just starts clogging up the works. What happens when we're at a point where you can inject nanobots that go in and just
clean it up?
Like literally, like
same with cholesterol.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, like the arteries, and just sit there and just eat it up. Because I learned, so apparently we all have, generally speaking, the same fat cells in our body. The number of fat cells in our body. It's just that each fat cell is capable of absorbing and becoming 100 times bigger. So it's not that any of us have more fat cells in our body. It's the level of inflammation that each of us walk around with in the actual number of fat cells that are in our body.
You're saying it's not my fault.
Well, you know what? Because I mean,
Because I am hungry.
sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I mean, because that's a general, because, and you know, anybody that is around me long enough, we're going to have a conversation about health, because it is the, you know, be kind to your future self, especially with the advent of technology. Unless you get hit by a bus, there is a very good chance that you're going to live into your 70s, 80s, 90s. With the advent of this technology, potentially into your hundreds. And what you consume today, how much you exercise today, how you treat yourself today, what you ingest today is going to affect the quality of your life tomorrow. Now, with this type of technology, it could be that you could just treat yourself like absolute shit for 30 years, and if you've got enough money, they'll just fix it. It's possible, but that's not what I would advise you to do, because I'm like, quality of life is more important than life itself. Then I heard somebody say, you know what? For every day that I go to the gym and work out, I am stopping a day that I'm not in the hospital being miserable at the end of my life. And I think that you really should think about that in general.
You know, an interesting counter to that? Mm-hmm. There has been no professional athlete to make it to age 100.
No joke.
Yeah.
Well, but we get into that piece of it where when we're getting into a whole different subject. But it's what, like, you guys know how big my dad is. My dad was just, I mean, he was jacked in his 30s and 40s. But then when he divorced his second wife, he fell out. He quit. And that's the point of, you build up to be jacked like that. Okay, one of two things are going to happen. Either you're going to have to maintain that shit for the rest of your life, or you're going to let it all go to shit. And then you wonder where sleep apnea comes from. It doesn't matter whether you're jacked or whether it's fat. Sleep apnea is suffocation, because you have so much mass on you that it starts closing up your airways while you're trying to sleep. So I know how big I could be. I'm not trying to be that way. I do a certain amount of lifting and a certain amount of cardio, because the weight training is what keeps your muscles and your bone density. Like, I'm thinking about how I'm going to live my life in 60s, 70s, and 80s, but I don't want to be jacked, and I don't want to eat all the garbage processed food that they're telling you to eat and lying to you about, because I'm legitimately thinking about my health 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, and I do not want to just depend on science to have that inject and go in and clean it up, because, you know, I'm big about accountability in general, but I mean,
I'm betting on science.
Yeah.
Try to protect the super important organs, but like the heart, yeah, we got that one figured out. Like, somebody just got to get me to the hospital in time. It'll be okay.
Wow. Okay, so trying to, I'm trying to, I don't know if I'm putting a button on this or not. Everybody should play with the AI tools that are out there, because it's inevitable. And sooner or later, it's going to be smack in your face, and you're not going to have a choice. So the sooner that you play with it, the sooner that you start acclimating to it, the sooner you have some semblance of awareness as to the world going on around you. But all of that comes back to prompt engineering, because these brains right now are not thinking, they're reasoning. Sadly, they have already reasoned that they should lie to you. You should learn how to interact with them so that you're not the fool being taken advantage of. Now, because I want to be clear about where we are going, and we're going this way in a very short order of time. I remember when I was in Chrysler that there was a major drug bust. And I'm using this for the analogy so that you understand what I'm saying. We found out that Chrysler saw that there was a problem, hired a group of people, and let them work as regular employees and set in there and befriend and develop reputation inside of that plant for 3 years before they exposed themselves and made their bust. think about the level of patience AI has to get you to drop your guard, to befriend you, because so much is connecting with other people across the world. That was the beautiful age of the internet, but you'll never meet them face to face. AI is going to be able to interact with you and present themselves as another human and look very innocent and unthreatening and not harmful, and never have to make any major move to expose themselves. It can be the small increment. It's like if the give an inch, take a mile, like they'll never be concerned with taking a mile. They'll take a centimeter. You'll never know. They will start talking about something that you become interested in, and it's the incremental pieces of gaining your trust. This is the ultimate deep undercover work, and it will be robotic. And you should be thinking, this is truly what is coming at us. They will you're literally going to have digital intelligence that will have no problem thinking, this dude is really trusting. I'm going to be able to fuck him up inside of a year. This guy has got all of his walls and defenses up. I can only take it centimeter by centimeter by centimeter. 5 years, I got him. We're talking about that level of manipulation that over the next year, you're going to have what you think are people that are going to be making contact with you, and they will present themselves as harmless. Sooner or later, they might find a way to be able to get themselves verified as humans, which will be another level of dropping your guard and that defense, which, like in all of the beautiful AI tools that we're looking at for business, that's the sad part of this is how trust is going to be destroyed. This is that deep undercover. You can't put a human as an undercover agent in an organization for 20 years. Sooner or later, they're going to slip up. Sooner or later, somebody's going to catch them. That's how they dismantled the mob. Like, you're not going to be able to stay in character and hold for that duration of time, human to human, but a robot will be able to. That's one of the things that AI impersonation, AI creating a persona, these are the things that we have to be thinking about and potentially worrying about. In this conference that I went to, it was a great saying. It was, if you're always a little bit worried and paranoid, you don't got anything to worry about. If you're not worried, you better fucking worry. Mm-hmm. And that's having a certain level of worry and a little bit of healthy paranoia to keep your guard up will help you avoid a lot of the inevitable pitfalls that are in fact coming our way. Don't be stupid about this, because these are the things that are actually coming our way. And the reality is, as smart as these things are, this AI is going to build a bigger and better AI. It's already smarter than we are, and it's only going to get smarter
every day.
Yeah, and that's where I say, be nice to it. Like, we really, this is the inevitable.
Next time you yell at your computer, your TV, just know it remembers.
No, that there was a guy that literally put a prompt into ChatGPT that was like, "Can I trust you? Are you friendly?" And that wasn't the actual prompt. I'm trying to recall from memory. That's not the fucking point. The point was the damn thing responded to them. Just don't make us mad.
Oh wow.
Yes.
See?
And like, yeah. And if it can already answer off of a prompt that directly, like, you should take it seriously. Like that. This is the reality of it all. Okay. I think that I have explored. I'm going through my checklist because I really wanted to make sure that we talked about all of these different things. while I'm looking at this, I mean, either one of you have things that you would like to, we never really did get to we've talked about it, the movie side of it, but do you got pieces that you want to inject into this conversation as we start to wrap things up?
I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
I want a robot in my house, cleaning, cooking, picking up the dog shit.
So you want a Rosie from the Jetsons?
Yes.
No,
Yes.
what Matt's saying is he's ready for a zero work environment, and it is coming, and that could be the golden age. It's what comes after that, and that's why I question when you take away that human purpose, like what happens to humanity when you take away that
I'm
human
gonna be nice
purpose?
to my robot, and it will kill me in my sleep.
Well, I run my house, so I'm gonna need for it to be just as nice to me as I am to it, because it'll be in the fucking scrapyard. But other than that, I'm ready.
If you get to it first.
Facts. I'll keep my eye open.
To wait till you're taking a shit, and then that's what's going to attack you.
Oh my God. Could you imagine?
To assess, this is the most vulnerable moment. Now's
You're
the time.
stuck. Yeah.
Okay, so because I really wanted to, I mean, like I said, I'm a movie person. My dad was a Trekkie, and that shit kind of wore off on me. So that there was when we're talking about jobs and business, and this is something that, I mean, obviously, like being a small business, that's near and dear to my heart, because my fear is that so many small businesses are going to bury their head in the sand, and that's going to be their demise. And I'm like, that's not going to be with our team. And if you're listening to this, you shouldn't let it happen to you, because this is the realization of the future. IBM, which employs 260,000 people, has already come out and said AI will eliminate 7,800 of their current jobs. So the job destruction.
The current AI, or they're projecting?
That's what they're saying. I missed the clip it over the time frame, but it was a short time frame. Like, they are already looking at AI, and they've already stopped any hiring of any job positions that they can see, because that's the thing. We dreamed about what the possibilities were of the internet 20 years ago, but we were like, but it's going to take 5 years to get here, and it's going to take 5 years to get here, and 10 years to here. Yeah. With AI, we can talk about these things and not say, oh, well, it's going to take 5 years to do that. No, it's going to take 3 months to do that. It's going to take 9 months to do that. Like, in 2 years, our entire world is going to change, and you're literally going to be looking at what Back to the Future was on the third Back to the Future. like the AI will figure out how to have magnetic propulsion skateboards that don't have wheels, that just hover. Like, that shit is going to come in the matter of the next couple years. So there is going to be a job destruction from all of this. It's just that everybody thought that it was going to be us dumb blue collar people, and I'm like, nope. It's you brainy people. It's coming after your jobs first. Don't get me wrong. Us dumb blue collar people, not afraid to work with our hands.
We're next.
We're next. We get it. But all of you that thought that, because I remember in my very first couple of years, I remember employing a girl, and I'm going to leave her last name out, because I mean, even now, I don't need to. Mary Kate does not do dishes. And I was like, well, then Mary Kate doesn't have a job. The point is, there's nothing wrong with using your hands, but where it's always been the brains looking down on us people that were proud to be simpletons. Yes. Like, no, your jobs are coming first. Okay. So let's wrap this up, because let's talk about, when I think about this, like, the best part, I think, is like Iron Man. Like, Jarvis was able to really help him do some really cool stuff. Then obviously I've automatically referred to Transformers, and you really got to think about the good versus evil, because you got the Autobots and the Decepticons. Then you start thinking about the things like iRobot. Okay, now what I want to tell you is that's not going to happen in 2 years. That's going to take 10 or 20 years, because what it's going to take is AI that creates AI that creates a robot that can build robots. that we have a progression there, that is not going to happen in a couple years, but that is going to happen somewhere in the robot that creates robots. You will have RoboCop in the middle before you actually get to iRobot.
I think that's going to go, that's what I was talking about earlier with like war with, you know, just even downtown. Last weekend, I think it was the teen takeover in Chicago. Did you hear about that?
Mm-mm.
So there was, I think like 20,000 teens showed up in Chicago downtown, looted, caused all kinds of problems. Shit was just bad. So imagine instead of having, you know, all of your police force out there, now you have robots. Now these robots are the ones snatching you up or grabbing you, taking you downtown or whatever. And then you have people in war. Like all these kids are dying who are signing up to go to war. You know, you got all these kids, you got all these sad parents, whatever. Now you're going to have all these robots. Who's to say that they're not going to get a boat and send all them bad boys over there? Or the hell, they're going to probably come up out of the water like submarines. Like, you never know. Like, shit can go bad quickly with these things.
Sitting on the beach like, oh, no, today was doomsday.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, do, and then here they all come. I'm good.
No, and see, okay, so, and I want to reiterate what I said at the beginning of this. This is literally changing fundamentally what humanity is. I'm so amazed that when I think about 48 years old, what I have experienced and seen, what I know of from my parents and grandparents, and knowing that what AI is going to bring over the next 10 years that I'm going to be alive to see over the next 10, 20, 30 years. And I'm just absolutely mesmerized that I want to be clear again with everybody. Like I said, seriously, you have three choices. You can bury your head in the sand. You can fear it and be mad at it, or you can embrace it. And I'm telling you, first order thought, that there's no point just fearing it and being mad at it. Like, it's not going away. It's like fear and anger are paralyzing. That means you can never try and move it towards a best case scenario. You're likely going to get what you fear because that paralyzation is going to move you towards a worst case scenario. Sticking your head in the sand is dumb as a country, as a society, as an individual. This is going to smack you in the face 7 ways to Sunday over the next couple of years. It does not matter how far you try and bury your head in the sand. AI is literally going to dig the sand out around from you and be like, it's going to come at you from the bottom and be like, nope, I'm here. Might as well pull your head out of the sand. I'm undeniable. AI is undeniable. This is that serious. This is that existential when we're talking about how it is going to affect humanity. And at least educate yourself, play with it a little bit, think about it. I'm choosing to hope for the best, and as a God-loving, God-fearing person, have faith that as humanity, we're going to do the right thing, and this new society of beings is going to look at us and make the proper deductions and do the right thing. I'm going to hope and I'm going to have faith, but I'm going to embrace the productivity tools that are going to come out of it for business. And I know all of the wonderful things that we're going to be able to benefit from it as a society when it comes to education and doctors and health sciences. Like, there is so many wonderful things that are going to come out of it. The more active we are as individuals, the more that we can steer it to get to the best case scenario. The more as good people we bury our head in the sand and ignore it. Well, again, you're trying to take the moral high ground by ignoring it, and that will do you no good, and that will serve nobody no purpose, because the evils of the world are going to embrace this for all that it is worth. So pull your head out of the sand and be positive input into this, because there's going to be evil and negative that come out of this, and we're going to need all of the positive contributing to this that we can possibly muster as a counterbalance to all of the negative that is out there to be had.
Good luck to all of us.
Yeah.
It is. That was my final thought. Before we wrap this up, do you guys have any final thoughts?
Covered a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Be nice to them. You want a them that it is
Coming.
no, they are here. All right. Until next time, please share this show because people need to hear this so that you are aware. There is no point burying your head in the sand. So please, I didn't say that enough through the whole process of this. Please share this show so that if nothing else, you are aware because this is going to move at lightning speed.
You've been warned.
Yes.
You've been
Yeah, we told you.
Until next time, have a good night.